In this lesson, we're going to finish replacing our major structure with its static meshes. Alright, so all we have left are the interior walls along with these pillars and beams that need to be replaced. So to get started on this, let's go ahead and go to our content browser, and we're going to drag in the architecture, and we're going to drag in a single wall. And actually, let me go ahead and bring in one of these doors first. So we have a wall door, and we're going to do 400 by 400. We're going to drag that in, and we're going to drop that right about here, because where it's going to go is it's going to go to this little closet here. And so I'm going to position this right inside here. And I want to set its position. Right now it's setting it at 1. Let's go ahead and set it to 10. And because the floor is at 10 right here. And then I'm going to rotate it, hitting E on the keyboard. And let's make sure we have that selected. And let's rotate that 90 degrees. And then I'm going to move it back. Now, we're not going to be able to get, and actually I took my scale up. Sorry about that. Set that. And did I scale this last time? Yes, I did. Let's set that to 1. And let's take this to 0. There we go. Sorry about that. Didn't realize that I had done that. Alright, so let's go ahead and pull that. And we're going to pull this up here. And we'll set this to 10 on its position. And it looks like it's going to be a little too thick there. I'm trying to think of what I think the thickness of the floor was set to 20. So let's go ahead and set that to 20. There we go. Okay, so now that we've got our wall in, let's go ahead and push that over. Let me reduce this down to something like 10 so we can get a little bit better on the positioning. And I know that this little closet that we were going to create here is looking to be pretty large. Okay, it's much larger than what we had before, but the door for it is going to have to be right in the middle there. And so we're going to have to extend this out. Now, we could go ahead and create a static mesh that fits the size that we need, but I'm going to go ahead and move on because it's really not that big of a deal. Okay, it doesn't really take away from the rest of the room, and actually I think making it a little bit bigger might even help it. Let's go ahead and take this wall right here, and we're going to hit E on our keyboard, go to our rotation tool. Let's hold down Alt and rotate that 90 degrees. And then I'm going to grab my move tool, hitting W, and I'm going to put that right up against that wall there. Now, let's make sure that we get it all the way up against that wall. And just kind of looking at that crease there. Let's go to our top view really quickly. Actually, let's set this to 20. Let's go to our top view. And I just want to check its position. I want to make sure that it's right up against that. And it looks like it's a little off by 1. So let's go ahead and drop that down. That should be lined up now. I need one more. There we go. Okay, now let's take that. Let's, you know what? Let's go ahead and push it up against this wall right here. I don't really want it sticking out too much. Let's talk about how much we should scale this. This wall right here, if we scale it down in the X direction to like 0.5, okay, that's going to get us pretty close to where we want to be, but I think that if you scale more than 0.5 and you scale it down to, let's say, 0.4 or even 0.45, I think that's going to stretch the UV, the texture, a little bit too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this, I'm going to take that back to 1. Let's actually just move it out to where it just lines up with the edge of the wall inside. Now you might be asking, well, what about the outside? We're going to have this wall cutting through. Well, if the player is never going to see that, there's nothing wrong with doing that. Okay, this happens all the time in levels. If you want to take a look at even some of the levels that Unreal has created, like the mobile game, you will see all kinds of pieces that just kind of stick out because they can. No one's ever going to see that anyway. Alright, so let's go ahead and get the other wall. So I'm going to hold down Alt, I'm going to drag that over, And let's position this right up against this wall right here. And let's go ahead and hold down, or hit E and hold down Alt and drag that. We're going to make that 90 degrees there. Grab your move tool and let's just simply pull that up against that wall. And if it helps, go to your top view. Hit F on the keyboard so we can see that. And just make sure that we have that gap closed right there. Alright, great. One thing that I forgot, we wanted this to be a door wall. So let's go ahead and just leave it there for now. Let's grab our door wall. And we'll place that into position here. I'm going to go ahead and set the Z value to that on to 20 because all of our walls are starting there. And let me go ahead and just kind of line this up here. And it's going to be the exact same size, so I'm just going to push that over. And let's select the other wall and delete it. Okay, so let's go inside. Take a look at what we have here. So we've got our little closet there, or it could be a bathroom or something like that. You'll see that the wall, or the door, is pretty much right up against the wall, and that's okay. Not a big issue. Okay, so now that we have this set, we've got our beams in place, we've got our, we've got all of our walls in place, including the interiors. Let's replace these pillars. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just do one. You can do the rest of those. So let's take, from the architecture folder, this pillar 50 by 500. We're going to drop that into our level. We'll just place that. Make sure your Z is set to 20 because that's going to be right on the floor. And we're going to go ahead and we're just going to push this into place. Let me go to my top view. And we'll come in and we'll just drop that right here. Okay, now it's okay if it kind of sticks through the wall. In fact, that's perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that. One thing that we want to think about is, do we want that angle on there? And I'm going to say no. I'm going to go ahead and keep it set to something like this, and it's cutting through that wall. I'm perfectly okay with that. Let's go to our perspective view, take a look at what we have here, and you can see it's kind of sticking through. Now we can get rid of that brush that's inside of that, and we don't have to worry about that any longer. Okay, let's go ahead and take that pillar. Let's hold down Alt, drag that over. Go to your top view. That'll help you line things up. Hit F on the keyboard so that way you can zoom in on that. And we're just going to position that right over that wall there. Something like that. Just kind of taking a look at what else I have. It's kind of sticking out over that corner there. That's fine. Alright, good. So now let's go to our top view, or excuse me, perspective. Let's remove that brush that's inside of there. And then you'll want to go ahead and create the other brushes for that. Go ahead and line those up to their positioning here. And then we're actually going to take this pillar right here. We're going to duplicate it. Let's hit E on our keyboard to go to our rotation. Hold down Alt and rotate that 90 degrees in the X direction. And then grab your move tool hitting W and just simply drag that up until it touches the ceiling. And that'll be our beam. So then we can remove that brush. Now notice that it goes all the way through. Let's go ahead and take this and we'll just scale it. Let's scale it in the, I'm going to say the Z direction because that's its local direction. So switch that and you'll see that that is true. Let's go ahead and take this to 3 on our scale. That looks good. Hold down Alt, drag that over. And I just want to make sure that that is lined up on the top view. And I want it to go right on top of that pillar. Perfect. Alright, so finish up by adding the other 2 pillars on this side. And then what we'll do in our next lesson is we'll start bringing in the doors and the windows. So we'll get started with that next.